I'm Lauren with Pack Hacker, and in this video we're taking a detailed look at the Amazon Basics Softside Spinner Suitcase, which I've been testing for the last 3 weeks. Let's dive in. The exterior of the suitcase is about as basic as it gets. So the material itself, they just say it's a polyester shell. It is a 150D polyester liner, so based off of how that looks, it is reasonable to assume that it's a denier that's higher than 150 on the outside here. Just very unclear what it is. It's still in like okay shape. There are a few loose threads like on the edges here, but that's more of like a manufacturing thing. Like it's just not super like tightly made. But it's doing an interesting thing along like the corners here. So I'm gonna bring this up a little bit closer. You can see it right here. The material is almost like, I don't know, it's down at the bottom too. It's almost like puckering, kind of weird, and I don't know, it doesn't feel like it's gonna rip or anything, but I definitely think that over time this is gonna like I don't think that this is a bag that is going to withstand a few times of like if you have to check it. I think that based off of how this material is going, like it's gonna get marked up pretty easily. So that's something to keep in mind. Granted, this is like a really solid budget option if that's what you're looking for. So you're kind of doing some trade-offs there. But in terms of like how it actually works, it's like okay. So on the outside here, we have a regular grab handle on the side and the top like normal. They're padded, but not like overly so, comfortable enough to carry, like grab from place to place. And then there's also a handle on the bottom here that's not as padded, but still a little padded. And that's so you can grab it from the base and move it from, side to side pretty easily, or grab it from the overhead bin or whatever you need to do. I think where, aside from like the material like blemishes here, the other side where it kind of starts to lack is with the wheels here. These are individual wheels. They're all like just single wheels instead of like that dual wheel design that you see on a lot of luggage. And they are 360 spinner wheels. They're just kind of loud. I'm gonna spin them really quick so you can hear it. Like you can hear them rotate really, really easily, I guess. And I noticed that when I was rolling this, even when it was completely full, it was loud, but also the wheels just like didn't stay locked in place super well. So when I was rolling this on all fours, it was kind of like jetting all over the place. I couldn't really keep it in a straight line, so that wasn't really convenient. We also have here with this top telescoping handle, this goes out to 2 separate height adjustments here, which is fine enough. It's just like a little button on the top. It feels very like cheap plastic at the top, and then this feels like a cheap aluminum, and it moves a lot more than other telescoping handles we've used in the past. There has to be a little bit of give so that they don't break, but this just feels a little looser than usual. And then here we have a spot on the back for like an ID card or something, so you don't have to use your own if you don't want to. And then this little like plastic bumper here to keep it from like scraping up against the bottom. So when you lay it flat on its back, it gives it a little bit of support. And also if like kind of acts as like a kick plate if you're gonna be like kind of kicking the suitcase so that you can get it up on 2 wheels. But it definitely functioned better on 2 wheels than 4 because of how sort of like willy-nilly it was flying all over the place. But in general, like it works fine. It's just not the smoothest experience that we've had. So this is the bag at the highest height adjustment. I'm 5'6". This is a little bit tall for me if I'm gonna be keeping it next to my side, but it is pretty solid for me if I'm gonna just be pulling it behind me. You can see kind of when I push this back, I don't know if you can see that it's kind of like wobbling a bit. And I just feel like that's like almost the wheels out of alignment, but they are aligned. They're just doing that. And that's kind of what I mean by it's just not a really smooth rolling experience. You're definitely getting what you pay for with this bag, which is not to say that it won't like last a few trips. It just won't last forever probably. And then if you're gonna be rolling it on all fours, I felt like the wheels kind of had a harder time like kicking into their adjustment and actually like rolling in a straight line. Like I was kind of like guiding it all the time instead of just putting it like and holding it next to me. This is the slightly lower height adjustment, which is way more comfortable if I'm going to be using all 4 wheels. And if it just goes down like that, you can just carry it this way. So overall, decently comfortable, just not the best experience. If you're finding this video helpful, hit subscribe so we can keep making content to help you travel smarter. So overall, this bag, they say that it is a 31 liter capacity. It is expandable, and they don't say whether or not the 31 liters is before or after you expand. I think it's before you expand, just based off of how much room is in this bag. Once we actually get into it, you'll see, but it's a little unclear there, so that's worth noting. The expansion doesn't do a ton. I guess we can look at that right now, actually. So there's this little zipper down at, I think it's this one down at the bottom. This is another thing that I ran into. I kind of got the zippers mixed up. Like, this is the main compartment zipper, but I would grab this one accidentally sometimes. But basically it's like a half, or like it unzips 3 sides and then just gives you like a little bit of extra space here. It's not a ton, it's like maybe 2 inches extra space. So they say it expands it up to like 14% more. But what I did like about the expansion was that it didn't, like, you know, sometimes when you expand a suitcase, it gives you like so much extra room that you're like, okay, well now I've like went from having it just barely too overpacked to now I have like all this extra room that's like unnecessary. It didn't really feel like that. Like when I expanded this, it felt like it gave it just enough extra space to be worth it. So that was kind of nice. Just make sure you check the dimensions with your if you use this as a carry-on, make sure you check your dimensions once it's expanded if you are using that, because that can impact your compatibility. As for additional pockets, this does have one on the outside. So we've just got the basics, like Amazon Basics logo up here. It's just kind of like a plastic whatever. And right underneath that is a zipper. We have unbranded zippers all around. They work perfectly fine, but not feeling super quality. Like, this is like a metal zipper pull, but it doesn't really feel like good metal. I don't know if that even makes sense, but it feels like really lightweight and like cheap almost. And then on the inside here, we have enough space for quite a bit of gear. I actually put my laptop in here, which I like when I'm able to put my laptop in a compartment. It fit a 13-inch fine. If you utilize this like upper bit, you could do a 16-inch in there as well. It was a little bit tight if I wanted to use something for like padding. For myself, I was traveling locally, and so I wasn't gonna be flying on a plane, so I wasn't too worried about like keeping my laptop extra protected, but I would definitely try and get a case in there if I was gonna be flying. I wouldn't just put it in there alone, or even just pad it with like clothing or something, which you definitely could do, because if you look at this pocket, it has a decent amount of depth to it, especially up at the top. You can see like basically that much space between, you know, the actual back of it and the front of the zipper is how much space that you have, and it goes all the way on this front panel. So you can put whatever you want in here. If I didn't have my laptop in here, I would put like other accessories that I want quick access to, maybe on like the plane or at the gate, or, you know, if I don't have an extra bag or something like that, or if you're flying with a sling and you can't, you know, use that as your personal item because you're using something else, then you can put the sling in here, whatever you want to do, a ton of different combinations. But I did like how big this pocket was, and it does like cave in a little bit. They say on Amazon as well that this is they describe it as a hard shell type, but it's definitely soft shell. Like, this is not a hard shell bag. It's, you know, obviously has structure on the sides, but this is a soft shell. So that's something to also keep in mind when you're grabbing this bag. Just because it has structure doesn't mean it's a hard shell bag. Definitely soft. The rest of this suitcase is just like a regular suitcase. So you use the dual zippers on the side here. These are, they have like a spot for a TSA approved lock. They are lockable zippers. It doesn't have like one of those built-in locks on this. So you'll have to get your own, but it has the dual zippers, so you can unzip from either side here. And it opens up, here I'll move it actually like this, clamshell, or, you know, yeah, clamshell like this, so that you can see everything nice and easily on the inside. So this here is a pretty lightweight bag. They say that it is, let me check here, it's 5.51 pounds, and it definitely feels lighter than, that's, you know, pretty light compared to other carry-on bags of a similar size. So that's really nice if you're looking to save weight, for sure. On the inside here, we have a zippered pocket on this side, which is where I just put like accessories. I also put like undergarments in here, or like hat, gloves, that type of a thing. Anything that I didn't need super often. And it does have a decent amount of depth to it, similar to the outside here. It kind of has its own like independent space. So it's not like a super flat pocket that you can't like overstuff with items. As you overstuff this, you could run into problems where, you know, it starts to get a little bit like, starts to like interfere a bit with the main compartment, but you know, that's just kind of to your own discretion. And then if you have the expansion zipper, expanded, you'll see it goes into actually the lid of the suitcase. Not a lot of like expansion zippers will go from like the bucket side and like expand out that way. It actually expands this way. The disadvantage of this is that you'll kind of have to pack above the bucket and then close and see if it works. Also, it only expands on the top bit, so you can't really start to like overpack this bottom. You only have like enough, you can basically go like triangular to start to like maybe mound this a little bit, and then just kind of like experiment with how stuff works. I basically got it to a point that like I was kind of struggling to zip it shut, and then if I wanted to, I would just use the expansion zipper to give myself a little bit more breathing room. And I found that it worked really well for that, because you know, sometimes you're just barely a little bit too overpacked. That was nice for that case. On the other hand, the inside of this is very simple. We have tie-down straps. This is just like a plastic buckle that you press in and then it comes undone. Very easy to adjust. It just kind of ties everything down on the inside of this main compartment if you want to use that. This is the first time I've had an issue with this not moving super easily, so that's new to me, but also I guess worth keeping in mind that it could be difficult to adjust on your sample too. Might just be a problem with ours, who knows, right? But with this, sometimes these, like I would just flip these over this edge so that they were out of the way. Sometimes they would fall in. That's kind of like all standard stuff that you run into with luggage, so nothing I'm knocking this for. These buckles just aren't the most quality, which like they worked fine, you know what I mean? And then on the inside here, I have a size 10.5 men's shoe, which, you know, there's still a little extra space there if you want to do like a shoe pouch or something like that. These are office shoes, so they're not dirty. With this, I also have a larger packing cube filled with like pants, 2 packing cubes that are smaller filled with tops and like undergarments and things. And then I have a larger tech kit and a toiletry bag. So I was able to fit like 5 to 6 days of clothing in here. If you pack a little bit smarter, you can probably get more. So it just kind of depends on how you like pack your gear up. But I found that this really like lended well to like a packing cube situation, just because it is like that one big bucket shape. And then if you have other items that you want access to that are smaller, like I put, you know, a pair of gloves if I don't know I'm gonna need it, I'll put them in there, or you can put like additional accessories or, you know, medication or anything you want in that like side liner zippered pocket, which is another thing that's pretty common. These tags are big, but you can't fault it for that. You can just cut them off if you don't want them. And then you just kind of pack around the like telescoping handle that's inserted in here like you would for any other luggage. So you can still kind of get all those same luggage features that you're really familiar with. What you're really sacrificing here is build quality. So, you know, not as great wheels, not as great of a handle, but the rest of this, and not as great of a material, but the rest of it does feel pretty okay, minus, you know, the loose threading and things like that. I feel like it'll last a decent enough amount of time. So there you have it, the Amazon Basics Softside Spinner Suitcase. Thanks for keeping it here at Pack Hacker, your guide to smarter travel, and we'll see you in the next one.